Just search on YouTube for "Get Advice from Real Buddhist Monk," and you'll find this live. Okay, so hello everyone, and welcome to this live stream, this live talk. I am Bhante Warapanyo. I am a 29-year-old American Buddhist monk. I've been a practicing Buddhist monk living at monasteries, temples, meditation centers in Southeast Asia and in Europe for the past 4 years, since 2018. And I've been staying at meditation centers and attending intensive meditation retreats and being a Buddhist since 2015. So I've been involved quite a bit in these practices of deepening the mind, opening the heart, and utilizing Buddhism and meditation as a way to heal and transform my suffering, internal and external suffering. Social sufferings, being unskillful out in the world, and also being unskillful in terms of how I dealt with myself. This event is entitled Get Advice from Real Buddhist Monk. And I will be taking the position. I identify as a real Buddhist monk. And so this will be an opportunity for people to ask questions and to get advice. Some things to keep in mind as we dive into this. One, I am not a medical professional. I am not a psychologist. I am not a therapist. And I certainly cannot offer any kind of medical advice. But really, I am just here to share my experience and wisdom, if you want to call it that, as a Buddhist monk. All right. In asking your questions, I will request that you can be as direct and clear as possible, and as much as you are able to refrain from focusing too much on your identity or like trying to introduce yourself fully, because in this period of time and in this kind of this format, there's not really a opportunity for us to get to know each other, for me to get to know each person who asks a question. So trying to ask questions, whatever they might be, as directly and clearly as you possibly can. And in getting this started, I would also like to share that I will be live on YouTube as this is going on. So you'll be able to see me and, see that I'm not just this disembodied voice, but that I am actually a real person. And I'll post the link to the live stream in the comments of this Reddit talk. So if you go to the comments, you'll see the link to the live stream, and then you'll be able to see me if you're interested in that. Okay, and you can also just search for my name. You can search on YouTube for Bhante Varapanyo, and you will find my YouTube channel on the live stream. Okay, so there's two ways that people can ask questions as we are having this event. One is that you can raise your hand and be brought up to the stage so that you can ask a question with your voice. And this is definitely the preferred way, so that I'll be able to hear your voice and you can ask a direct question and other people can also hear you asking. That's really ideal. And then the other way is that you can simply leave a comment. And I'll try to keep up with some of those comments and read through them. But really, if you do have a question you want to ask, the best way is to raise your hand and can be brought up to the stage, and you have the opportunity to use your voice and ask the question. This event is also being shared live on TikTok. Some people are watching on TikTok, so they may ask some questions and I may take a moment to answer them. But I'll be prioritizing to answer the questions from people who kind of call in. In some ways, this is almost like not really a podcast or a radio show, but it's an event where people have an opportunity to call in and ask a question with their voice. And so that is what I will be emphasizing, is to answer those people who call in and want to ask a question. Okay. So let's get started with this live Q&A, and I appreciate you all being here. I'm happy to be here and hope that this can be an activity that brings some benefit and happiness to people's lives today. All right. So here we go. We'll start by bringing up Why Are Your Eyes Red? The End, and Clash Wizard. So go ahead. Why are your eyes red? Do you have a question?
Yes, hiya. Simple yet vague question. In a world full of war and conflict and all sorts, how do you suggest one would start to find peace within themselves?
Well, I have to say that you included the answer in your question from my position, and that is to look inside. And the issue that most of us have is that we don't really know how to look inside. We don't really know how to begin that process of turning the mind around and looking inward, but also that there aren't really supporting conditions in our modern society, in our modern world, for looking inside. It's more emphasized that you have an ability to get everything that you need and everything that you want for your happiness by looking outside, by going outside of yourself. And so we have to kind of start learning about how to generate peace within ourselves, generate happiness within ourselves. And the first step to doing that is not necessarily in facing the suffering that is outside or facing the negative stuff that is outside of ourselves, but actually turning the mind around and beginning to face um, our own suffering. Okay. And you might look at that as the reactivity of you in relationship to outside, but it's more so about these past experiences that we've had in our lives, and especially the past ways that we have acted unskillfully in response to suffering, in response to difficulty. And so that leads us to be in a position where there's a lot of suffering and there's not a lot of understanding. So that first step is to kind of take a step back from the world, from the outside world, from our reactivity to the outside world, and then to turn the mind around and start looking in, to start this process of investigating and being with our suffering. Okay, so when we feel anger, instead of focusing on the thoughts of the anger or the story about the anger, focusing on the experience of anger in our body. What is being experienced in the body right now? And bringing with that a willingness to be with what we are experiencing, rather than just trying to fix it, change it, control it. And there are a lot of conditions that can support that. But the basic premise is to kind of stop what you're doing when you get a chance, when you have the time, and to turn the mind around, to focus on being aware of what's happening, the body right now. Okay, be aware of the breath. And that's going to be a doorway to knowing more about the truth of your mind as well, and why you react the way that you do to things. Um, So the question is about how do we find peace, or how do we deal with the state of the world outside? And it's by turning the mind around and facing the state of the world inside and being with that wholeheartedly, breathing and
That
being
makes
with the
that
experience,
makes perfect sense.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, of the body. And we kind of do it in small ways. You know, we do it by going for a walk, or we do it by being more aware of our breath, or we do it by kind of just bringing this sense of curiosity or questioning to our normal experience that we're having right now. Okay. and then that can lead to other things. You know, looking into meditation, looking into Buddhism, looking into a more contemplative way of living that can maybe bring more benefit to our lives. But it starts in a very simple way, just that willingness to look and to be with what's happening right now inside. Okay, thank you, YR, for your question.
Most welcome.
We'll go now to Clash Wizard.
Hi there.
Yeah, what's your
Hello.
question, Clash Wizard?
This might be a very generic question, but I would like to know what it means to be a Buddhist monk, or maybe even how does one become to be a Buddhist monk? What does it mean in a person's everyday life?
So the Buddhist monk's job is to be a good person and also to develop a kind of investigation of the mind. So, a training of the mind, training specifically in concentration and relaxation. So, the job of a monk is to be a good person and to train the mind in relaxation and concentration. Okay? Um, the practicality of being a monk is something along the lines of a Buddhist priest, a Buddhist sadhu, someone who is representing the religion and living out the religion full time. Okay, so if you are a Buddhist monk, that means that you live at the monastery, you live at the temple, you follow certain rules and regulations of monk life, of being a monk, and you also are kind of beholden to the Buddhist community, and you're supported by the Buddhist community. So as a monk, I don't do anything to make money. Okay, there's no activities that monks do or should be doing to make or generate material wealth. Instead, we abandon that way of life to focus on and to emphasize a spiritual wealth, developing happiness, developing peace, developing joy, developing wisdom, developing compassion. And then our responsibility as monks is to support the Buddhist community spiritually while they support us materially. That's kind of like the life of a monk. So what does that practically mean for me? That means that I live at Buddhist temples, I teach meditation online, and I do regular sessions like this, sometimes for the Buddhist community and sometimes more for a general community. Okay, giving advice, answering questions, um, trying to help, trying to bring benefit. Okay. Thank you, Clash.
Yeah, thank you for that.
All right. How about the end? Do you have a question?
Hello, Mr. Monk. Thank you for your time. Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
I have a very practical question. I've been practicing meditation for years now, and I just figured that you would be the person, one of the best people to talk to about this. How do I use my mind to answer questions that I really want answered? I know that the mind is connected to things that are not observable, and it feels like a lot of the times that my mind knows the answer, but I get drops instead of the showers of clarity that I'm looking for. Do you have any advice or techniques that you use if you have a question you really want answered and you know you can answer it? How do you go about, or do you have anything you use to go about, getting the answer that you're looking for?
Okay. Thank you, the end.
Oh, you're
So,
welcome.
in the meditative life, what's important is the questioning itself, the curiosity itself, the investigation itself. And to really ask a question fully, deeply, and contemplatively and scientifically, we need to know about abandoning the result that we want to get. Okay. So you're
Um,
not going to be a good scientist if you are totally focused on getting the result from your experiment. You have to
but
focus on the experimentation itself. Now, you've said you've been meditating for a number of years. Are you,
yes.
what kind of meditation teachers or talks have you listened to in that vein? What teachers have you looked to in particular?
I've had a very varied experience. I started in Japan with like a martial arts style, I guess, a meditation of just understanding the body, the breath, and creating a form of unity between the mind, body, and spirit. That's what I started with. But I don't have a specific kind of meditation. I feel like I approach my mind differently depending on the things that I want to do, whether it's build myself up or meditate for clarity or to contemplate things or even to meditate to do creative things and let my mind do creative projects for me while I'm like
Yeah.
observing, if
Okay.
that makes sense.
Okay. So, a good golden rule is that simplicity is the path. The moment that our mind
Okay.
gets involved with, stuck on complicated thinking, convoluted notions, we've fallen off the path and we've become a little bit misconstrued or confused. What
Okay.
I recommend to you is that you need to start listening to some real meditation teachers. All right. In the same way that the body can be trained to a great degree, to a great extent, the mind can also be trained to a great degree, to a great extent. So, if you are a meditator and if you are seriously investing in this path, you need to start listening to Dharma talks. You need to start listening to truth talks from meditation teachers, from people who have been at this for a lot longer than you and have also been, the period of time in which they've been practicing has been a lot more focused and well supported. So we need to bring these kinds of talks and informative lessons into our life for sure. There's no doubt about that. We need to have that dynamic. And if you're someone who's invested in meditation practice, then those talks are going to be more accessible to you. Okay, so from the Buddhist perspective, there are three jewels. There are three like precious aspects of the path that support us to become enlightened or become more wise, become more peaceful, become more happy, etc. And that is the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Okay, so the Buddha is like the founding teacher of Buddhism, but it also represents our enlightened nature, so our Buddha nature, which is our real, true, direct capacity to become enlightened, which is to our real capacity to end our suffering. Okay, and we take refuge in that. We trust in that we do have this capacity for suffering to come to an end. All right. Secondly, is the Dhamma, the Dharma. So there are skillful teachings, there are wisdom teachings to instruct us and support us on the path. They don't need to be Buddhist. It doesn't always need to be Buddhist to get like wisdom teachings or deep teachings for meditation, but there is very good source material in Buddhism, and many modern Buddhist monks that are not extremely religious or have like this religious way of approaching things give talks and give support, and you need to listen to those kinds of things. You need to understand that there are people who carry with them a powerful compassion, a powerful wisdom, a powerful insight into the nature of mind that they have developed through deep training, great training. And they give talks and they share their understanding and share their experience with the world. And so you've got to rely on that. You've got to take refuge in that if you want to develop on this path. And just if you want to develop and be a more happier, more peaceful person, right? Because if you've spent 20, 30 years of your life being around generally, whatever kind of people who are not particularly wise or compassionate or inspiring to you, and also being around people who are deeply negative or toxic or addicted or suffering, you've got a particular dimension, a particular perspective about the dimension in which humanity can exist in. And that's going to deeply impact the way that you carry yourself and the way that you look to the world to get the things that you need, right? When you start to listen to teachings from people who have developed their compassion and their wisdom to a major, major degree, you see that there's a different dimension of life that is accessible and reliable and can support you on your path. Doesn't need to be spiritual, doesn't need to be Buddhist, doesn't need to be religious in any capacity or any way. But there are people who have great wisdom and great compassion, and you can listen to them. You can listen to their talks. You can bring them into your life. And it's not just random people on TikTok or random people who are selling you some kind of self-help program, or even me. I'm compared to some of these people, I'm generally random compared to them, to how deep their wisdom and compassion and their training has gone. So this is a part of humanity, in the same way that physical power and physical development is a part of humanity. NBA, NFL, whatever it might be, that that's real and that's true. So too is this capacity for embodied wisdom and compassion. So you need to listen to talks from people like that. So that's the Dhamma, all right, the talks that these kinds of people give. And then also source material in Buddhism, or source material that comes from a deep experience and a deep practice, is also, we can call the Dharma, which is like truth teachings and truth guidance. And then finally, it's the Sangha. We need to take refuge in the Sangha. We need to have a relationship with a community of well-minded practitioners. We need to be in community. We need to have the support of community. And one of the best supportive communities is a community built on practice, built on an emphasis of compassion, kindness, gentleness, and an appreciation of wisdom. So this is just like the 3 jewels that we need to get involved with in our life if we really want to develop in dealing with our suffering, in transforming our suffering, but also just in terms of having more happiness and more peace. But especially if you want to be involved in the spiritual path, the Zen path, the enlightenment path, and you're quite serious about it, look, you need to be listening to heavy hitters. You need to be looking into Buddhism. You need to be looking into talks from Zen teachers, from Thich Nhat Hanh, from Ajahn Brahm, from people in the Plum Village tradition. You need to really be looking to find high-level teachers that you can relate with, that can support you on your path. Otherwise, there's a hard limit to where you can go. Okay? Thank you for your question, the end. And don't take your thinking too seriously. Don't overcomplicate it. The path is really about simplicity, sincerity, a willingness to show up, a willingness to be aware of what's happening right now, and also to let go. Okay? To be patient, to be gentle. It all goes together. All right, so we're going to continue taking questions and sharing. Just a reintroduction, because a lot of people have joined since I originally introduced myself. I am Bhante Warapanyo. I'm a 29-year-old American Buddhist monk. This is just like a live Q&A and an opportunity for people here to ask questions and get advice from a monk. I have been a Buddhist monk for 4 years now, and I've been practicing meditation and Buddhism for about 10 years. So this is just an opportunity to ask questions, and you can either leave a comment down below or you can raise your hand, and I'll bring you up to the stage, and you can ask your question that way. As I usually do these talks, I really like to share a resource post, a resource link. So if you go to the comments, oh, that's not going to work right now. Sorry about that. Okay, I'll have to do that later. But I'll make a post that's a comment that has some different resources and things that you can access moving forward to support you in learning more about Buddhism, learning more about meditation, spirituality, good, strong, deep source material that you're not going to come across just by scrolling on TikTok or Googling, guided meditations. So let's bring up some more people to ask questions. We're going to bring up Defiant Cheetah, The Real Mohab, Visible, On Duali, Yabarber, Belina, and Co Jones. Welcome to come up and speak, ask a question. We'll start with Mohab. Go ahead, Mohab.
So my question is, what do you consider happiness is?
So what do I consider happiness is? I would say happiness is the experience of and the ability to prioritize mental well-being over pleasure. So to the degree that you can take care of your mind and take care of your environment rather than only chasing after pleasure and trying to pleasure yourself, then you can experience this state of well-being, this state of peace that I would liken to happiness. And maybe I would say that this happiness is a kind of activation of that general sense of well-being and peace. That there's certain times when we have a degree of excitement because of a certain condition or a certain situation that comes up. And if that excitement is kind of blooming or bearing fruit from this soil or this general quality of mind of us taking care of our mind and taking care of our life rather than just trying to get pleasure out of it, then I would say this is what I would call happiness. Okay? All right. Thank you, Mohab, for your question. We'll go
Thank
now. We'll go now to Visible Ad.
Hello.
Yeah. What's your question?
Hi. Thank you for inviting me to ask a question. I would like to know why is it important to nourish like not only your body and intellectual mind, but your spiritual self as well? And like, what are the 4 thoughts that turn the mind toward a spiritual path? And why is it so important to have an intellectual, like, bulletproof foundation for your spiritual practice?
Could you condense all that to a more clear? I'm not completely sure what the question is.
Like why is it so important basically for one to like nourish not only like our body like physically, but like also our spiritual selves? And what would like turn the mind towards a spiritual path, you know, and why it's so important to have that, you know?
So the normal ways that we think about and consider and look at and take care of our body and our mind are totally dependent upon conditions. So the conditions that we exist in, the conditions of our environment, the conditions of our world, actually we cannot control them. So if we are completely relying upon the conditions of being able to make our body feel a certain way or make our mind feel a certain way, then there's going to be a constant stream of issues and failure that comes up in our lives because we're constantly going to be confronted by the fact that we are not able to control the conditions that we find ourselves in. Okay? A recognition of that is something along the lines of a recognition of suffering. Okay, so to the degree that we can recognize suffering, that's to the degree that we will understand that we need to do something about it. We need to take care of it. We need to be involved with our lives, not just in an animalistic or superficial way of pleasuring the body or pleasuring the mind, but that actually we have to turn the mind. We need to start to investigate and understand the nature of this suffering rather than just trying to cover it up or avoid it. So I would say that it's this recognition of suffering that leads us to a curiosity about a way to deal with that. And the way to deal with suffering is to find our spiritual life. And that is to find our intentionality that we bring to this present moment. And also to investigate and question and face all of the cause and effect, all of the momentum from our past actions and our past experiences that are currently expressing themselves right now, all of the effects from our past actions, to face that and be willing to face it, be with it, rather than avoid it or cover it up with some kind of pleasurable experience. Okay? That's my answer for your question. All right. Thank you, Visible Ad. We'll go now to On Duel. On Duel, do you have a question?
So my question is, I have been like practicing a meditation for a long time now, and my question is that the more I stick on this path of like discovery, the more non-attached. I mean, I get desensitized to feelings, and there is this space. I mean, there is an joy in the state where I'm in when there is no thought, nothing. But it's kind of blank. So my question is thought a feeling, or is feeling a, I mean, how can we bypass this this thing which is happening?
I don't know what you're talking about.
I hope it makes sense.
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
Right. So, okay.
Please try to be direct. What is your question?
So
What do you
the thing
want
is
to know?
that the most, my question is that if I practice self discovery and I become desensitized to my own feelings, so is that a normal thing? Does it happen?
Well, I don't really know what your experience is. Maybe it's something that would need to be worked out by someone who knows you, or where you can explain more clearly what the experience is that you're going through. But the practice of
Right.
meditation does allow us to develop a sense
Mhm.
of detachment. Okay, and this detachment is a ability to experience something without identifying with it, without trying to perpetuate it, without trying to get more of it, but also without trying to get rid of it, without trying to force it away. Okay, so this capacity to be aware without reacting is really important. But the main issue is that we're not here, and the path and nothing in life is really to get stuck on one particular experience. You need to continue practicing. You need to continue showing up to your life in a skillful way. Ideally, showing up to your life in a way that originates from an intention to help and to bring benefit. Okay? And most of the things that we get caught up in our minds are just not that important. And we need to come back not to focusing on ourselves more, or trying to solve the puzzle of ourselves more, but instead on using what we already have to share, to help, to bring benefit, to do good deeds. It's kind of a fad to have this worked out, hashed out psychology. But the matter of fact is that the best psychology is peace. And the best way to peace is through goodness. The most direct way to peace is through goodness. If you are really emphasizing to help others, if you are really emphasizing to be generous, then you're not going to be so stuck on yourself. Instead, whatever self you have is not to be hung on to, not to be solved like a puzzle, but is to be used to help others, to bring benefit, to be generous, to take care. And we don't stop and fall into this kind of pit of self-fixation, self-attachment, self-worry. We step into getting involved in our lives and doing good deeds. Focus on the action that you can take right now, not the effect of your past actions. And in this way, nothing should bog you down or get you stuck. Okay. Thank you, Ondul. So we'll go now to Yabarber.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
So, the question I was wondering is, assuming from before you became a monk, how do you, as of right now, deal with, maybe like traumas or stuff from your past that may still affect you?
Okay, thank you. So I recognize that there have been experiences in my life that have been very difficult. And I also recognize that in the future, there can be experiences that are very difficult, that are going to happen or have happened. But I don't see my real true self in any of those. I don't over-identify in that this was my experience, that I'm to blame, or that I'm going to have to deal with this, or that I, not this I, but that, oh, that's a thought, or oh, that's likely going to happen again, or oh, that was an experience that did happen. That I went through that. But instead of getting stuck on this I part of it, this self part of it, this me part of it, I get stuck, or I rely on this noticing quality. Okay, so I notice what's happening right now. And we have to get grounded to deal with trauma. We have to know how to get grounded and develop a relationship with the normal, ordinary, everyday direct experience that we're having right now. One of the issues, I think, with the remembering trauma is that we kind of get lost in our mind, right? We get lost in this story, this memory, or this possible future experience, this possible future kind of dream that can happen. And that becomes a really major big issue when we don't have a relationship with the ordinary. We don't have a relationship with our body. We never give attention to our body. We never give attention to our breath. We never give attention to our heart. We never give our attention to the seeing itself, the hearing itself. We're always constantly lost in the content of what we're experiencing. So, when some idea or some thought or some conditions come together that remind us of a certain content of the mind that's very sticky, we just fall deeply into that content, into that story, into that worry, right? Into that fear. So how I practice with that is that I rely on being aware of the body at the present moment as true. So like in my breathing right now, in my following the breath as it flows into my lungs and flows out right now, that's way more true. That's way more real. That's way more intimate. That's way more relevant to who I am and what life is than some story. Point blank. I mean, that's it, Chief. That's how I approach it, period. Okay? And so this is a practice. It's not just a belief. It's not just an idea. But that this present moment direct experiencing of the body that's happening right now, not the content of my hearing, not the noisy neighbor, but the hearing itself, okay, the breathing itself, the body itself at this moment is way more whatever I am, whatever that is. That's an ongoing, unfolding experience. I don't know what it is, than any kind of idea about myself, any kind of worry, any kind of fear, whatever, that this is the truth and this is not a story. And so I rely on that, my breath, my heart, my experience of the body right now, rather than some story or some belief. And that's a practice. And the more that I've practiced that through meditation retreats, through developing relationships with people that's based on those principles, those ways of being, then I can respond. I can see trauma through that lens, and I find that to be very reliable. There's still going to be difficult stuff that happens, but all of that difficult stuff is secondary to what's happening right now and my relationship to that nowness, that awareness itself, that hearing itself, that seeing itself that only exists in the now rather than the content um, of the body and mind, any kind of story. Okay, Barber?
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So, brief intermission, everyone. Like I said, I am Bhante Warpanyo, 29-year-old American Buddhist monk. I posted, I can just edit. If you go to the comments of this page and see the top comment, there's a link to the live stream. So I'm live on YouTube right now if you want to see me. And you can watch the live stream that way. So the top comment has the link to my live stream on YouTube. And I definitely appreciate if you all come and stop by. You can see who you're talking to. But I'm trying to edit this comment and include a list of resources that sometimes things don't hash out exactly how you want them to. But if you go to the comments right now, you will see a link to the live stream and also a list of resources. Okay, the formatting came out the right time there. So a list of resources, my Discord server that I run, my YouTube, book recommendations, some recommended teachers, links to all kinds of information that you can use to learn more about this way of thinking, this way of being. And you can just kind of have it as something to bring into your life, some ingredients to add to your life that hopefully can bring benefit. Okay? And anyone who wants to join that way can also just search for my name on YouTube, Bhante Varapanyo. Okay, so we're going to take two more questions through the voice, people who have come up to the stage, and then I'll answer some of the comments that have come through. So Belina, go ahead. Just have to unmute your mic, Belina. Or maybe Co Jones. If you're there, you go.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Right. Thank you for having us or having me. The question is, am I guilty for all bad things in the world? I mean, I feel that all problems in the world, including wars and physical pain and suffering, I feel that this is my fault some way. But I can understand because I don't understand because I don't do bad things, to the world. I just work, do my work, and I work as a programmer, a computer programmer. And can you talk a little bit about this? I feel I'm stuck in this place where I want or I need to start the service, and the service I mean to helping others, like helping homeless people, you know. Thanks.
Sorry, I was muted on YouTube. To take a step into the responsibility of your own life doesn't take any kind of outside conditions to do. All right. If you can face your situation, your suffering, then you can begin to do things to alleviate that. And one of the best things you can do is to face that. All right, to face the suffering inside yourself, regardless of outside. Okay, regardless of what's outside. And in terms of doing good deeds, don't let anything stop you. Start doing good deeds. Start doing acts of generosity. Start to use what you have already to help and bring benefit to someone. Call up a loved one. Call up someone who you think may benefit from a call or whatever it might be, and just do something good to bring benefit. All right? Don't
Sure.
overthink it. The intention is there, so follow through with the intention. Thinking is not going to feed anyone, really, for the most part. I mean, there's some very specific practical thinking, but that's not really what we're talking about when we say thinking or meandering around the idea of doing good deeds. People who want to spend a lot of time thinking about, well, what's a good deed? How do I do a good deed? These are the people who aren't participating, who aren't showing up to do it. So clean your room, clean your toilet, do an offering of generosity. Offer, share what you have, be generous in whatever way you can. And this, at least, you can start to take those steps of doing good deeds.
Sure.
All right.
Thank you very
And
much.
a powerful good deed that you can do is to be mindful, to be aware of what's happening right now, to be aware of the present moment. And you should lean into that. If you want to do good deeds, you don't know how, get into meditation. Listen to a Dharma talk, listen to a guided meditation from a real teacher, someone who's really experienced. This is also a way of doing good deeds, because you are listening to and you are bringing something into your life that is wise, compassionate, coming from a deep and meaningful place. And it's going to empower you to be in a similar position.
Sure.
You have some
Thank you very
follow-up? You have some secondary question here?
Well, about the feeling of the problem of feeling guilty for all bad in the world. I think I overthink too much that we create our reality. So I think I'm really creating it. I think I'm really creating the wars and it's maybe
Yeah,
it's some
so
kind of a mental condition, right? But the feeling is there, and so that's why I ask. But I understand
well,
what you
to the
said. Thank you
degree
very
to
much.
the degree that you are doing all that, you're also nursing all the babies in the world. You're also doing all good deeds in the world.
Sure.
Yeah. So if we focus on the negative, we're going to feed and empower the negative. If we can take a step back from our negativity, if we can take a step back from our shallow thinking and our self-fixation, me, my, it's all about me, it's all about my, I'm doing all this, I'm doing all that. If we can
Yeah.
take a step back from that, then we can start to look objectively at what's happening, and we can look in a way of curiosity, a way of investigation of what's happening right now. Too much assumptions, right? You don't know who you are. You don't know what reality is. You certainly don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You certainly don't actually know what happened yesterday. Okay? You know a little bit about your perceptions, and that's, very little. So be willing to put down assumptions and pick up curiosity in terms of mindfulness of the body. looking at,
So
giving your attention to the experience of the body at this present moment.
sure. So overthinking may be a problem.
Yeah, overthinking is useless. I mean, it's non-practical. It doesn't serve you or anyone else. Um,
Mm,
it's just nonsense. But we can't really control our thinking so strongly. What we can do is learn to take a step back from our reactivity of what we might be experiencing, and to, instead of focusing on thinking, we can bring our attention to the body, to the breath, to the heart. We can put our attention there, just breathing, following the breath, and
mm,
listen to talks from people who are wiser than you. Listen to wisdom talks, Dharma talks, truth talks. Do some guided meditations. Okay. Listen
sure.
to, I'll give you a link right now from Ajahn Brahm on overthinking. Okay. It's not so difficult to
Please.
do. But look, if you know that you are not particularly skillful, okay, well, try to
I'm
listen to
not.
people who are particularly skillful. This is really important. All right.
Right. Is the link in the comments?
I'm going to send it to you directly,
Oh, sure. Thank you very
but it's
much.
also in the comments. There's a big resource post in the comments, but I'm going to
Uh,
message this link to you directly. Okay.
right. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you. Okay. So, Co Jones, you have a question?
Hi, thank you for letting me ask a question. So, a friend of mine is suffering through a mental health issue, which I don't know if you know about ADHD. Uh, so basically, they know about this since a few years now, and they're adult already, and they have tried to look at many resources online to understand how they can fix what they are suffering, because many years of their life have passed by where they are still at the same place right now, and it's very overwhelming to see so many resources online which talk about medications, and some talk about dietary changes, behavioral changes, to trust for someone who is suffering from ADHD. So it's a little specific, the question, uh, but I just wanted to know how a person should deal with this, because they are not able to even kickstart any task that they pick up in their life. They probably do it one day, and the next day they won't do it. They'll completely forget about it. Even meditation, they have tried doing, but they just stop. Even
Um, that may not be necessary. Okay. A lot of self fixation leads to a lot of neuroses that may not be necessary. So, in many cases, what can bring us benefit and some freedom and some opening in our life is not to think about ourselves more or to think about our friend more, but to do good deeds, to do acts of generosity, to go out into the world and to do activities that are not based on getting something from yourself, but giving something up. All right. And the more that we can be involved in those kinds of activities, the more that we really can have a natural quality of healing, a natural quality of freedom. Um, And so even if we do still have a condition, anxiety, depression, ADHD, we may still need medical support and medical help, but we may be able to find ways to regulate ourselves a little bit more skillfully. All right, so giving up that self-fixation, that constant self-fixation, always focused on yourself, always focused on what you can get out of life and how you can manipulate the world to get what you want, even in a positive way. I want my friend to be different. I want my relative to be different. Instead, just offering, just giving up, just sharing. Okay, just giving what you have for the benefit of others can be a big help. Okay, so we're going to go over to some of the comments on the YouTube. I am live streaming on YouTube, so if you want to see me live and in HD, you can click on the YouTube channel, and that's also where I host regular group meditations with my community on the YouTube channel. So if you're interested in that, you can hop over there. Link to the live stream is the top comment of this event. So I'm going to answer some questions from over there. Have I ever dealt with addiction? Sure, I've definitely dealt with addiction. And what made me become a monk? A lot of suffering and a deep awareness of my suffering led me to taking those steps to being more and more involved in meditation and Buddhism and eventually becoming a monk. Sarah says, advice on handling fear and also on handling chronic pain and its emotional component. Thanks, Bante. So someone this morning during my meditation class that I was teaching for my Vietnamese group, Vietnamese students, was on this topic of chronic pain. And the answer that I shared was about taking that pain, that strong experience of pain, as an invitation to be aware of all the other dimensions of your experience that are going on right now. Okay, the pain is there, but also the breath is there. Also the body, the rest of the body that's not in pain is there. Also sound is there. Seeing is there. So noticing the pain as not something that is separate and distinct and wrong, but noticing the pain as something that is arising and passing away in the midst of all kinds of different phenomena and experiences. When it comes to fear, finding a way to show up in our life that is loving and gentle, but also facing, has this vividness and this aliveness to face what's happening. Okay, it's through our willingness to face what we're feeling that we overcome fear, that we transcend fear. Okay, so sometimes that fear comes up when we are trying something new, or when we are expecting a certain kind of experience to come up in a certain situation. So if we're able to notice the fear, notice the experience of being afraid, and not to be afraid of that, but to step into it, to keep making those steps forward, to face and be with what we are experiencing, then that fear can quickly subside. And through practicing that, we can learn fearlessness. We can develop this ability to abandon fear, to let go of fear, to not be afraid of fear, to not be disempowered by fear. Okay. Next question on YouTube. How to deal with intense heaviness in the chest? Is observation merely enough for things to pass away? Sure. Whatever it is, it's going to pass away, no matter what. Whatever it is going to pass away. And being aware and giving our attention to those feelings and those experiences that we feel concerned about that's great. Then we can understand why we have that reactivity, why we have that concern about that particular feeling. So observation is more than enough for things to pass away, because everything is going to pass away. Everything is going to change 100%. We don't need to worry about that. So just breathing and being aware can solve a lot of our problems. Breathing, being aware, having this quality of patience and open-heartedness to whatever we're experiencing can help a lot. Adrian says, how did you become a monk that can have a life outside a monastery? Most of my life is in the monastery, but I'm able to visit my family and do things like that. So right now I'm just visiting family, but most of my life is inside the monastery, inside the temple. Hi there, Zeros and Hoalu. Always nice to see you here. For those who don't know, I run one of the most active, or I think it's safe to say the most active meditation community on Discord. So it's it's got to be one of the most active meditation communities online. So if you're looking for that, check out the Discord server, and we'd love to have you there for daily group meditation practices. Divarian says, I have a question. Okay, no question there. Bree says, what do you think of this quote from the Tao Te Ching? Ordinary people hate solitude, but the master makes use of it, embracing their aloneness, realizing they are one with the whole universe. Yeah, that's great. That's beautiful. Okay. Kat says, no matter what I do, I cannot feel intimacy or bond with others. It's really starting to affect me. Any advice? Stop trying to rely on others or find intimacy in others. Find it in yourself. Take that energy that's looking outward and turn it inward. Really look internally to find intimacy and relationship with yourself, with your body, with your breath, with your heartbeat. And some people might think it's silly when I say that, like find a relationship or give attention to your breath, give attention to your heart, right? Give attention to your body. But it's the opposite of silly, and it's also exactly what I'm saying. I'm not trying to get a message across when I say that, or to like direct you to be in a certain way when I say that. Give attention, give focus, give presence, give your awareness to your breath, to your heart, to your body, okay? This is a really powerful way of developing and advancing yourself in terms of wisdom and merit and goodness and the good effects from doing good, from doing skillful activities. Melina says, how to control our anger through meditation. Face and be with anger and feel anger in the body. Okay, use the energy of anger to understand more deeply why you're angry. We tend to use our thoughts. We try to rely on our thoughts to understand why we are angry. All right, we try to think our way through anger, and that always ends up perpetuating our anger and also perpetuating our ego. Right, we're always thinking about our anger. It's much more important that when we feel that quality of anger, that we're willing to stop, or any strong emotion, stop what you're doing and bring your attention and your focus inside and feel that emotion physically, feel that emotion in your body. This is a way you can really develop some understanding and some wisdom from that experience, rather than just your shallow thinking about right or wrong, which doesn't really get anywhere anyway. Okay. Okay, Divarian says, how can one deal with the anxiety that comes with small mistakes? Don't sweat it. Don't worry about it too much. You make a mistake, so what? You're not a perfect, ideal person, so what? You were doing good for a while, and now you're not doing as good, so what? Don't worry about it. Don't overthink it. If you want to do good, if you want to be good, then you should do it, regardless of if you make some mistake or if you're not a perfect person. Welcome to the club. There's nothing to be overwhelmed by or confused by in making mistakes. It's just something normal. It's part of being human. It's through making mistakes that we learn and grow. Okay, making mistakes is important. You need to learn how to use the power of making mistakes. If you only have success, you're likely going to be a fool. Okay? Stepupin says, I have a constant sense of fear inside of me, restlessness. I don't know what to do. Face it. Be with it. Be willing to feel fear. Be willing to be restless. It's okay. We've got to feel what we are feeling. That's how we can understand it and let go of it, or at least have compassion for it. And I'm just going to answer a few more questions coming through the YouTube live chat, and then I will I'll continue answering questions, people who want to come up to stage and ask with their voice. Keep it that way says, I overthink a lot about every little thing, and I think it's starting to drive me crazy. How about your experience thinking that I can be careless about certain thoughts that I will never get to the bottom of? Thoughts mostly don't matter. Thoughts mostly are not practical. Okay? Most thoughts are non-practical. Most thoughts are useless. So we need to learn about doing. We need to learn about taking action. We need to learn about being generous, not just thinking and pleasuring ourselves like an animal. Okay? We need to start finding ways to do good, finding ways to be good. You are not so important. Okay? Focusing on yourself, pleasuring yourself like an animal, seeking out sleep and sex and food like an animal is not so important. Okay? Your thoughts are not so important. What is important is to be a good person. How do you be a good person? By doing good deeds, by getting involved in doing good deeds, acts of generosity. Use what you already have right now, not to focus on yourself more, not to be more selfish, not to be more complicated in the way that you think. Use what you have right now to help someone else, to offer, to share. Use what you have right now to do an action of helping. Okay? Period. Clean your room, clean your toilet. I can guarantee you that most of the complicated thoughts that you have are less important than cleaning your toilet, less valuable than cleaning your toilet. I'll guarantee it. Okay? And at least cleaning your toilet is going to benefit other people as well. So don't worry about your thoughts. Clean a toilet. Okay, Brandy says, how does one manage meditation when it is necessary to take medication for mental health diagnosis? It feels like the medication is keeping one from being able to let go and just exist in the moment. I'll tell you right now, it's not medication that keeps someone from letting go and existing in the moment. It's our desire, it's our fear, it's our humanness, it's our ordinariness. Everybody has that experience in meditation. If you are someone who requires medication to regulate your mind, I would recommend that you are very careful about meditation, and I would recommend that you emphasize loving kindness meditation and also listening to talks from wise and compassionate teachers, okay? We don't all need to meditate in the same way. We don't need to force ourselves to meditate. We can listen to talks from wise and compassionate people, and this can bring a meditative quality to our mind that is where you don't need to be concerned about, going too deep or getting your mind too sharp or too bright to the point where you get upset or get confused. All right? And I have some links for talks like that and resources like that in the comments of the Reddit post. Okay, this Reddit talk. Dad says, why do I feel depressed when I'm not actively pursuing my goals? Don't let that be the case. Don't let your goals be so conditional. Find a goal, find a way of showing up to this moment, regardless of the conditions, in a way that brings you peace and benefit and help. Hey man, what's going on? You ready? Do some fun stuff, do some good stuff, whatever you want to do.
What are you doing?
Right now I'm answering questions from a bunch of people online. Do you want to come and sit? All right. Well, let me know when you're ready. I'm ready too. It's just my nephew coming by. Say hello. Yeah, a lot of difficult questions today. So finding a goal, finding a way of showing up to our lives that applies to any place, any time, any person. So finding that kind of goal, that kind of way of doing good deeds allows us to constantly practice, to constantly show up in a way that supports us to develop and to advance. And it doesn't always need to be about meditation. If we're just able to find a way to do good deeds, to find a way to do actions from an intentionality of being helpful and sharing and being generous, then this in and of itself is going to bring a lot of benefit to our lives for sure. I'm on TikTok and Reddit and YouTube.
I have your TikTok. Did you
Huh?
edit me?
Did you see me on TikTok right now?
You added me. No, you added me though.
Oh yeah, I did. I sent the message.
You sent the message?
Yeah, well, I sent, that's kind of sending a
Oh.
message that I added you. Yeah, and for most things, everybody, we need to learn how to relax, how to be patient, and how to enjoy the really small things. So, like taking a shower, for example, can be a great point of meditation, of just being with the breath, being with the body, feeling the body, feeling the water on you. And we have to take those moments to stop and slow down and refresh and restart. If we're constantly going from one place to another, if we're constantly relying on our thinking, it's going to be a stressful and confusing life, and it's going to be exhausting. But if we can find those moments of simplicity to just breathe, to just see, the seeing itself, the hearing itself, not what we hear, not what we see, then it opens up a completely different dimension of our life. A freedom, a curiosity, an exploration, unknown, right? We're so often burdened by knowing. We know this about ourselves, we know this about the world, and we think we understand everything, we know everything. Well, there's a joy and a freedom that goes with not knowing. So the question becomes, how willing are you to not know, but to just be here, to just be aware, to just be present with what's happening right now, fully, wholeheartedly. And this is something that we practice. It's not something that we need to believe in. And we experiment with how we breathe. We don't need to be stuck on one particular way of breathing. If we breathe in one way and it stresses us out or it confuses us, relax. Try to breathe in a different way. And we don't only need to approach this path through focusing on the breath, but we can also listen to talks. We can also bring a quality of like a meditative sense of mind to just going for a walk. And really, at the core of it is finding a way to do good deeds. So, like for me, this is a way where I can do good deeds. The basis of a spiritual practice, a way to do good deeds, a way to be generous, a way to share something that's valuable to you, something that you're holding on to. It might mean volunteering at a homeless shelter. Would you like to do that? Volunteering at a homeless shelter, or offering your money, offering your time, offering your body in some way that is helpful. You don't need to overthink about it. You just need to show up and do it. Okay? And one of the ways is mindfulness, to emphasize and prioritize being aware of what's happening in the present moment. And so why is that skillful? Why is that a good deed? Because this is the present moment. This is where we find the truth. This is where reality is. Okay? Right here in the present moment, with the breath, with the body. To the degree that we can attend to face, to be with our life right here and right now, that's the degree to which we can understand and take care of our life, our sufferings, our confusions. All right? So we'll bring up a few more people to ask questions with their voice. And if you do have a question that I wasn't able to answer today, or something you want to reach out to me and talk with me about, you can send me a message on Reddit. Okay, or a message, whatever way. In the comment that I left in this talk, I also included my Facebook name, so you can contact me that way as well. All right, I am accessible, and I'm here to help. Okay, Lorem, you have a question?
Hi there. First of all, I want to thank you so much that you do this kind of FAQs. And just recently I converted to Buddhism, and I've been meditating now for about 2.5 years. And since 1 year, I do like 2 25-minute sittings a day. And I was wondering about meditation when you're sick, because currently, like, I'm having the flu, and
it's one of the best times.
Sorry?
Meditation when you're sick, it's one of the best times to practice. It's the ideal time to meditate when you're sick. It's one of the most difficult times, maybe confusing and burdensome, but it's one of the best times to meditate is when you're sick. So try it out. Don't fight with yourself about it, but try it out.
I tried it for like small sittings, like 5 to 10 minutes, and it was really, really, like really difficult.
Yeah.
So, okay.
That's good. Difficulty in that way is good. And if you can try to endure even for 25 minutes, then it's also good.
Thanks again. That was basically all I wanted to know. Thank you so much.
Yeah. The boundary point, or the point where we say, okay, that's not good, is when our meditation becomes unstable, confused, complicated. But if we're practicing to endure, to be with difficulty from a place of stability and an intention and a knowing that that's what we're facing and that's why we're showing up in that way, that's okay. And if you can stretch out in that way, practice in that way, then there's a lot of benefits that go along with it.
Thank you for the hint. I sure appreciate it.
Lorem, I'd love to see you over in our Discord server as well. We got a big active community, lots of Buddhists, lots of meditators over there. So we'd love to have you over there.
Just while you were talking, I clicked on the link and I made up a Discord account, and just I will do so.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right, Miss Lovely, you have a question?
Yes, thank you for answering my question. I apologize if I'm a little emotional because this is kind of a topic that's sensitive. As someone who has dealt with a lot of death in my life, just recently my grandmother passed away tragically. And it's just something that my mind just can't wrap itself around no matter how hard I try. How do you approach death?
So this is something that comes up often, Miss Lovely, in these talks. People have a similar experience, and I'm sure you can imagine that many people lose their loved ones, right? They lose these people who are close to them. It's not uncommon. There's a story, traditional Buddhist story, about this woman who lost her son, a very precious young child, and that's one of the most unbelievable kind of situations that can happen, right? Is to lose your kid, your son. And this woman came to the Buddha and said, Lord Buddha, or Great Buddha, Teacher Buddha, Enlightened Buddha, I want you to bring back my son. I want you to use your power, whatever power you have, to bring my son back, because he died too early. He wasn't able to live his life. This just isn't right. And the Buddha said, okay, I'll do it. I will bring back your son. All that you need to do is go into the village and find one person one family who hasn't lost a loved one, and to get a mustard seed from them and bring it to me. If you do that, I will bring back your son. Okay? And so at that time, the woman went through the village, went from house to house to house, trying to find someone desperately who hadn't lost someone in their family. And wouldn't you know it, not possible. She couldn't. So she came back to the Buddha, and she said, I couldn't find it. Everyone has lost. And so the Buddha taught that this loss, this impermanence, is at the heart of life, the heart of reality. And that this experience of loss is something that you aren't alone in going through. But that it's a human experience, and it's just as real as life. Now, what I want to add to that, and what I want to emphasize in that, is that really what your grandmother was, and who your grandmother is, you couldn't. And maybe this is why it feels that you can't wrap your head around this. Your grandmother isn't bones, isn't flesh, isn't blood and sinew, fat and muscle. That's not your grandmother. Never was. Couldn't be. To constrain this being of, I'm sure, love and compassion and wisdom in your life, to constrain to flesh, bones, right? No. Your grandmother is the actions, the continuation of her mother. You are the continuation of your grandmother. Your grandma is inside of you, and you are inside of your grandmother. So if we can look with our true eyes, our eyes of mindfulness, our eyes of wisdom, we can see that loved ones don't die in that way. We don't lose our loved ones in that way, but rather it is a change of form. And it is drastic. It is shocking, right? But if we walk with mindfulness, if we see with wisdom, if we hear with compassion, then we can invite our loved one to be with us here, now. Not in a spiritual way, not in a shallow way or a coping way, but we can invite their true face. We can invite their true name. We can invite their true nature to be with us, to continue in relationship with us right here and right now, because that's really what that loved one is, always was, this continuation body. This teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh, has this teaching, a cloud never dies. And in the same way, our precious loved ones do not die, okay? But it's rather a change of form. And so you can take this loss as a moment and an opportunity, a real opportunity to deepen your relationship with your grandma, and to deepen your relationship with life, with your heart, with your wisdom, with your compassion. All that your grandma taught you and embodied and continues to embody through you, you deepen that, you open that, you explore that, you're vulnerable with that. And in that way, you invite your grandmother to continue even more in you. She already is. She couldn't go anywhere else. She couldn't leave you. But you can invite her to continue with you and be with you more deeply. You can go for a walk, and if you walk with mindfulness, okay, if you walk being here in the present, being with the truth, being with reality, being with the cloud never dies, that wisdom, to see that, to know that a cloud never dies, it changes shape, it changes form. If you can walk with mindfulness, with present moment awareness in that way, you can invite your grandma to walk with you here and now. So I encourage you to practice like that, and I don't say any of these things as like a way of coping, but that this is my understanding about the truth of no birth and no death, but rather the continuation of our true names, our true nature that isn't trapped or stuck to bones or flesh, but is a matter of the heart more than anything else.
Thank you. That really does help a lot. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you a lot.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And I thank you for your sharing today and your vulnerability. And I definitely somehow feel like maybe a connection to your grandmother being here now, just from your sharing and your presence and your open heart. I think we can all maybe feel her here with us, for sure. Yeah. So maybe we can all take a few moments just to be with the heart and be with the breath and the body right now. Just to breathe deeply and be aware and be with the body and be with this open heart. Okay. So we'll take just a couple more questions. bring up Autumn, and Junk, and Reference. Junk, do you have a question?
Hi, it's a throwaway account. As a recent survivor of abuse, I find myself getting really attached to people and things around me that give me a sense of comfort and safety and stability that I can't find within myself. As these things and people move on out of my life, I have trouble letting go. And having been raised around monks and in a more of a Catholic kind of setting, I just wonder what you would have to say about practicing letting go of those things and finding my own sense of safety and stability and comfort in my life.
Okay, thank you, Junk. So I think you're going through right now that experience. So what's most important is not to fix it, but to allow yourself to be gentle and patient as you go through this process. You have clear intentionality about the direction in which you want to go. And it also sounds like you have a real background of experience that can support you in going in this direction. So just be patient. Don't worry about solving this puzzle. Try to give yourself time and gentleness and a lot of love and a lot of compassion as you walk through this. And know that you do have the real power to get through this and to develop in the way that you want to develop. Other than that, I can just recommend, you know, listening to some talks and some guided meditations and things like that. I think that can be very helpful. And you don't need to isolate yourself. You know, as human beings, we're meant to be a part of a community. We're meant to support each other. We're meant to be protected and cared for and supported by one another. So don't be shy about leaning into community, especially during this transition period where you're going through some past difficult experiences and learning to let them go and feel safe in your own situation. So be patient, be gentle, and keep going in this direction, because I think you're definitely going in the right one.
Thank you. It wasn't what I expected, but I think that was actually an answer that I hadn't considered yet. It's hard to, as someone who tries to separate themselves from dependence on those things around me for like just my history of religious upbringing and feeling like I can do everything within myself and within whatever higher power exists. It's hard to remind myself that we also believe in a sense of community that is there intentionally. And as that community develops and changes, you know, maybe some people leave, some people join, but it's not something that stays stagnant or necessarily calm in order to be supportive.
Yeah, and certain teachings and certain teachers are going to be supportive for you going in without relying on someone else. So I have some recommended teachers in the comment that I made, and if you want to be more independently resourceful, then you can follow up and you can look into those teachers, those teachings, and see if there's something that you can use for your path or for your development. Okay?
Thank you.
All right, we'll go now to to Penguin.
All right. Hey there. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. First of all, thank you so much for doing this. This is the first time that I've listened to something like this, and I just want to say that a lot of these answers are very insightful. And I really do want to say thank you again for your time. So I'm just going to read this from the comment section. I commented earlier, so I'll just get straight to it. I am currently going through my very first heartbreak, and it's a very difficult one. I was with my partner for almost 6 years, and I'm just wondering if there are any teachings from Buddhism that can help to heal or move forward in this journey. I want to remain kind to myself, which is very difficult, but I also want to remain kind to others, and I am afraid that through healing during something that's suffering like this, I worry that my heart will harden towards others in the future, and that's not what I want.
This doorway to a deeper understanding of the experience of loss, the truth of things passing away. So try to, even though you're going to think about it and you're going to, this happened because of this and that, and figuring it out and all these coping mechanisms that we have, but also to feel the loss itself, because there's a certain kind of wisdom, there's a certain kind of insight that is being expressed and being presented in that feeling of loss itself. Because we're going to lose everything, and we're constantly losing things. We're constantly losing people, losing ideas, losing experiences. So take this as an opportunity to open rather than to close. And that means to feel and be with this experience itself, rather than relying on your thinking about it, relying on your experience. And I would hope that this supports you to soften and open, and to recognize that everything, anything, whatever we get, we are certainly going to lose, and that's not, it has nothing to do with ourself, has nothing to do with you. It's a matter of life. It's a matter of reality, that whatever we get, we're going to lose. And in experiencing that, don't shy away from all of the wisdom and the richness that can come from feeling that loss, even though it's uncomfortable, even though it's painful. that there's simply so much that you can grow from and you can learn from in that experience.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we can go now to Neddard. If you have a question.
Can you hear me?
And also anyone who's here listening, if you go to the comments, there's a link to the live stream. I'm also live on YouTube, so if you want to see me live and in the flesh, the top comment should have a link to the live stream, and I also have a Discord link there as well if you're interested. For everyone joining seems like a lot of people are joining the Discord right now. For everyone joining the Discord, there's a welcome channel that gives you an introduction to our community and some questions and some information for you to answer if you want to verify and join our community. It's a very unique, intimate space that is really like an intentional community online. So if you want to join that, please read everything in the welcome channel so that you can join. All right, read everything in the welcome channel and then introduce yourself if you'd like to join our community Discord, which is like a very active meditation community. Okay. Are you there, Neddard?
Yeah, hey, Dante, am I audible?
It's a little bit low, but I can hear you.
Yeah, thank you for letting me do this. And I just posted a comment on YouTube, but now since you are also adding me here, I'll ask it here. What is your thought on practicing stability? Like most of us find it very difficult to come out of a hard time in our life, but I also feel like it's very important to remain stable during the happy phases as well, because when the happy time ends, like I just keep dwelling back into the past and thinking ahead of time, and I find it really hard to be stable at times. So I am able to realize that what I'm doing is wrong, but putting it into action and like being remaining stable is very difficult. So what do you think about it?
Yeah, so the practice is to be aware of present moment sensations in the body. Okay. And even though we may be remembering some past pleasurable experience or, looking forward to some experience or worrying about some experience moving forward, in the midst of difficulty, in the midst of potential of difficulty, in the midst of pleasure, in the midst of potential pleasure, coming back to mindfulness of breathing, coming back to mindfulness of the body. It doesn't necessarily have to breathing, but being aware of the body that's here right now, not just our thinking and not just our conceptual ideas, but the real experience of having a body right now that is accessible to us. Okay. And this is something that we can constantly come back to, we can constantly rely on and work with. And it's simply a matter of mindfulness of the body, being aware of the body at this present moment.
Yeah, thank you. But as I was
Right.
like, I'm able to be aware of the state I'm in when I'm like going through that, but getting used to this is stalling me a lot.
Yeah, it's really healthy and worthwhile to get used to connecting with the body, being aware of the breath, being aware of the feeling of your feet when you're walking, coming back to this direct experience that is not so intellectual, not so convoluted, complicated, not so story based. It gives us a dimension of freedom to our lives that's really important, really helpful. A kind of capacity to refresh and restart at the present moment. Okay, how about autumn rainy day? You have a question?
Yes, I do. I was actually wondering, I guess with sleep more so, like how does like meditation help with dreams, or how can it like help, I guess, like eliminate or like kind of control your way of dreaming to where it's not so negative and more so on a positive aspect?
Yeah. So meditation in the certain way can help us to not necessarily have a more positive mind, but detach from our selfishness. And usually, a lot of the negativity that comes up in our life is coming up from this place of self fixation. We're stuck on this strong self idea. And so, all of these intense fears or worries or certain stories play out. When we can start to show up to our lives in a way of meditating, which is like mindfulness and letting go, then that strong self fixation, that strong self attachment becomes less. And those hyper negative dreams or even hyper pleasurable dreams can also become less, more relaxed, more peaceful.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah, it's just crazy sometimes because it can be so vivid. So it's nice to just kind of be able to realize that you can just have that self fixation to kind of just loosen everything up a little bit.
And whether it's in a great dream, pleasurable dream, or a great nightmare, emphasize the waking up. Really touch the waking up, and that may include a a stress or a feeling about the dream, but the waking up is much more profound and precious and alive, and this is something that frees you from that nightmare, frees you from that dream. And we think that if we have a pleasurable dream, that's great, and if we have a scary dream, that's bad. But both of them carry this kind of attachment, and if we get stuck on that dream, if we get stuck on that pleasure or that fear, we're going to be ignorant. We're going to be confused. We're not going to be awake, right? So emphasizing the waking up. And when you do wake up from a negative dream like that, give yourself a massage. Massage your body, stretch, wash your face, rinse your face off. Especially do that if you wake up in the middle of the night before you go back to sleep. Massage your face, put some water on your face, stretch, and give yourself some of that refreshing and loving attention to your body and mind before you go back to take a rest. Okay.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you taking the time to have this talk and discussion with all of us.
Yeah, I'm so fortunate to be able to do good deeds and in this way, and to show up in this way and be inspired by everyone's sincerity to be here and ask questions and to share their heart and their mind. So we will wrap up now. I want to express my thanks to everyone for being here and sharing their experience. Just a reminder that I do have a YouTube and a Discord server that everyone here is invited to participate in and be a part of if you're interested in group meditations or joining a community or getting more access to resources in this vein, in this way of thinking. And in the comments of this post, you'll find my comment that I left with a lot of resources and links and book recommendations, recommended teachers that are really high level, really deep, and can support you to get more involved in living a skillful life and doing good deeds. So thank you all for being here. May we all be happy, peaceful, and free from suffering. May we all find joy in the simple things. And may we all find a way to take care, to be good, to be generous, to be gentle in our lives at this moment and at this day. Okay? Thank you. That's the end of our life. and I will play some Buddhist music if you like to listen. I'll keep the live open for a little bit with some Buddhist music.
Breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. I am blooming as a flower. I am fresh as the dew. I am solid as a mountain. I am firm as the earth. I am free. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. I am water, reflecting what is real, what is true. And I feel there is space deep inside of me. I am free, I am free, I am breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. I am water, reflecting what is real, what is true. And I feel there is space deep inside of me. I am free, I am free, I am free. I am free.
This is it. This is a happy moment. This is it. This is a wonderful moment. This is it. I have arrived in this moment, and the only moment is now. This is it. Only breath breathing. This is it. Only life blooming. This is it. Only interbeing, and the only way is right now. This is it. The holy mountain is here. This is it. The sacred temple is here. This is it. The pathless path is here, and the only place is right now. This is a happy moment, this is it. This is a wonderful moment, this is it. I have arrived in this moment, and the only moment, the only moment, the only moment is now.
Thank you for letting me fly high, high above the sky. Thank you for letting me smile, smile, smile throughout day and night. Thank you for letting me cry the tears from deep down inside. Thank you for being my light, a guardian angel by my side. Thank you for opening my eyes and making the world so bright. Breathing in, I go back to the island within myself. There are beautiful trees within the island. There are clear streams of water. There are birds, sunshine and fresh air. Breathing out, I feel safe. I enjoy going back to my island. Breathing in, I go back to the island within myself. There are beautiful trees within the island. There are clear streams of water. There are birds, sunshine and fresh air. Breathing out, I feel safe. I enjoy going back to my island. Breathing in, I go back to the island within myself. There are beautiful trees within the island. There are clear streams of water. There are birds, sunshine and fresh air. Breathing out, I feel safe. I enjoy going back to my island. Breathing in, I go back to the island within myself. There are beautiful trees within the island. There are clear streams of water. There are birds, sunshine and fresh air. Breathing out, I feel safe. I enjoy going back to my island. In gratitude, you have water, sea,
seeds of love in me in gratitude. In gratitude I will water seeds of love in someone too. And when you suffer some, please call and I will come. In gratitude you have watered seeds of love in me in gratitude. In gratitude I will water seeds of love in someone too.
I am a cloud, I am the blue sky, I am a bird spreading out his wings. I am a flower, I am the sunshine, I am the earth receiving a seed. And I am free when my heart is open. Yes, I am free when my mind is clear. Oh dear brother, oh dear sister, let's walk together mindfully. And I am free when my heart is open. Yes, I am free when my mind is clear. Oh dear brother, oh dear sister, let's walk together mindfully.
Happiness is here and now. I have dropped my worries. Nowhere to go, nothing to do. No longer in a hurry. Happiness is here and now. I have dropped my worries. Somewhere to go, something to do, but not in a hurry. somewhere to go, something to do.